It all starts with when you get into a fitness zone, you think about, I want to get into training, I want to get the right kind of apparel, I want to get the right kind of gear.
Yeah.
But eventually, what's inside decides how you work outside. So if I'm taking a protein which is light on my stomach and is giving me the gains or giving me the recovery or giving me my protein goals, it should do all of that. And
Yes.
that's how typically I think a lot of proteins have that issue where they don't give that. I think at that time I remember people were like, yaar, ye sab kaun karta hai? And that has changed, right? Now there are specific things for men, for their face, for their skin, for intimate areas, for their hair, for their name it, and there's stuff available. And I think that evolution happened much faster than the evolution of personal care in women.
It's been a couple of
Yes.
years now, Varun, and you're doing
Yes.
such phenomenal work with the brand, right? You and Shilpa
Thank you.
both actually are doing such great work in this space, and I want to kind of firstly congratulate you about that, right?
Thank you so much.
And the second thing that I want to know is that, please share with us the founding journey. You do know now that there is this huge demand and there is this growth factor that is coming in. We just discussed about the quality of life as well, right?
Yes.
When you started Fast&Up, it was like that initial journey. So tell us about how it came along, and what was your experience with the entire process?
So I'll tell you a little. I'll tell you how Fasten Up started first. It was actually came from my own experience with nutrition while trying to achieve a fitness goal. So I have a friend of mine who I can tell you, I'm not kidding. If you ever asked her to even give you the remote, which was right next to her, she would ask you to get up and pick it up. Okay, she's one of my closest and oldest friends from school, and she ran the half marathon, and I was there cheering for her, and that gave me a thought that I also want to do a run. And if she's done 21 kilometers, I definitely at least want to try 10. So a few months later, I did a 10K, and while I was running, I on the turf on the course, I felt that there was a complete lacunae of nutrition. Like there is maximum I got was an electrolyte, a high sugar drink, and I didn't find it very refreshing, and I found it a little bit draining rather than providing energy. And towards the end, when we finished it, great feeling. I was in the parking lot and I found a few runners trying to, like, there was some other brand. They were trying to open the sachets and trying to put some water into something into a water, and they were making faces while drinking it. So obviously it was not a good experience. And that was a recovery product they were trying out. And I had a effervescent tube of our brand Fastener from Europe with me, and I just basically pulled it out and I just broke the tap and I put a glass of water and a bottle of water and started drinking it. And these guys just looked at me. They're like, "What are you having?" Because we are literally struggling putting this in and like trying to shake it and it's not working out.
Yeah.
And I just gave it to them, and they got in touch with me a few weeks later or a few days later, and they're like, "Guys, what is the? Can you tell us where can we find this?"
Yeah.
And during that run only, I was thinking, yeah, it would have been so good to have our product here. And this was because Fasten Up was earlier a product which was developed in Europe, and we were selling it in certain markets in Europe.
Yes.
And when I was here, I was like, when that happened, I was like, yeah, this really needs to come to India. I see, like, if my friend can complete a 21K, in my 10K there were like thousands of people. I think the nation is changing, and we
Yes.
cannot not have good nutrition, because if a nation needs to evolve, it needs to perform.
Yes.
And if it all starts with when you get into a fitness zone, you think about, I want to get into training, I want to get the right kind of apparel, I want to get the right kind of gear.
Yeah.
But eventually what's inside decides how you work outside. So that's how actually Fasten Up came into life into India. And I met coincidentally at the same time Vijay, who's the co-founder of the brand. And I call him India's fastest CEO because he is India's fastest CEO, because he is a sub 3 marathoner and he's done some of the big races around the world. And he agreed with the fact that he also felt it as a runner who used to do these really big marathons, 42Ks. He also felt that there was something missing in India, and Fastener sort of fit the bill. And I remember the first product that we developed, we went into our R&D, and I had done a lot of research on a few products internationally, and I was like, let's see what's going on around the world, especially in the space of electrolytes.
Yeah.
And most of the products at that time were all high sugar. So isotonic was really popular at that
Mm.
time. But the
Yes.
science was coming in that isotonic actually makes you more dehydrated. So if you put more sugar in the body, it takes a lot more water for the body to remove sugar.
Yes.
So at that time, we were in the lab and we did a few flavor trials, and Reload was born. as a
Yeah.
hypotonic drink. So it was a little bit different because everyone is talking about isotonic, 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 and we were the only ones coming and saying yeah, low sugar
Yeah.
and hypotonic. And I think that's eventually our star product, I would call it. And I think the reason why it just picked up with the running community, with the cricketing community, and with the overall sports was with the fact because it performed. It delivered what it promised. And I
Yes.
think that's what eventually all nutrition products are about. That a
Yes.
consumer actually will feel the difference. And they
True.
ideally should feel the difference. If they don't feel the difference, there is something completely, you know, odd with the product.
Absolutely.
And that's how I think the entire product has come into life, and that's how the brand came into life.
Thank you. Thank you. That's very interesting. Thank you for sharing a personal story also. You mentioned the marathon runners, you mentioned the athletes, right? And of course, the very important aspect that you mentioned, and I want to ask you something more about it. You spoke about electrolytes and reload also, right? Um, hydration is something which is so important for so many people to understand.
Yes.
So when I'm doing consultations with clients, right, and we do an understanding of their routine or their lifestyle, we always understand that there is no inclination to drink a lot of water, or they've forgotten to drink it, or it's there, but it's just routine and hectic lifestyles, and then we just completely forget about hydration. And so many of our daily discomforts, it could be headaches, it could be a dry throat, it could be fatigue, it could be just not feeling very peppy, comes from the fact that you are dehydrated, you know
Yes.
and you're losing electrolytes. Like, we're living in a tropical country, and we're sweating, or we're obviously doing something or the other, and we're also losing our electrolytes throughout the day with our processes. So please explain to me from your perspective that what is the kind of importance that hydration plays, and what was the whole difference that something like an electrolyte in your entire day, along with hydration of water as well, has created such a big difference for so many people, because I know it, and I would like you to elaborate on that fact as well.
So I think you got it sort of, you've hit the nail on the head. Electrolytes, or sorry, let's keep electrolytes out for a minute. Hydration is I think a silent problem, and it's a pandemic. I think dehydration is a pandemic. And what we don't realize is that apart from being in a tropical country, which is where we are constantly sweating,
Yes.
we are also trying to strive a lot more. So you have your athletes and your fitness guys who are definitely trying to do a lot more. Anyone over here, even if you go for take a metro right now, I go out for like quickly 5 minutes to the metro station, I will probably like be drenched in sweat, and I probably will have a sip of water. This is what typically I would see outside, people do. And if you actually took the balance that how much you sweat out versus how much you replenish, and that's not just it, you're also literally you're peeing, you are using water as a process in the body, it is a catalyst in so many processes. The amount of water that we consume versus the water that we actually consume,
Yeah.
there's a massive delta. And I think that is a big chronic problem. And I think there are so many people constantly saying, "Utna pani piyo din mein, itna pani piyo din mein," and there's a reason behind it. It's a fact. And if we are 70% water as humans or any animal, when the 70% element of your body goes into deplenish or depletion, your overall body can't function the same way.
True. Yes, thank you for highlighting that. Yes.
And I think that's where hydration becomes such a key role. And what the other important point is that I call it sort of, it's an icky test, but it's a sweat test. So if you ever have sweat falling in your mouth, it never tastes like water. If you ever had, I mean, all of us when are working out or something, we would have had a little bit of sweat and it's sour.
Yeah.
Why is
Yeah,
it
that's
sour? Because it has electrolytes. So when you're sweating, it's not just water that you're letting go of. Your electric conduits, your electrolytes they have it in their name, electrolytes, and eventually we're all electric beings. They are the ones who are making sure that the nerves are functioning, the muscles are functioning, the electricity of life is moving up and down. And when we sweat it all out and we just replenish with a little bit of water, so the delta on hydration is so low, is so high, but the delta on the electrolytes becomes even higher because there is absolutely no intake of electrolytes. We have
yes.
salty food, but salt is only sodium chloride. And if electrolytes are not, doesn't end there. The larger components are magnesium or potassium, as you are definitely you're aware about. So how I see it is that if you want to solve or you want to build a certain lifestyle or you want to have a certain body goal in terms of health and fitness, you can't ignore 70% composition of your body.
Yes.
So that's why hydration for me is, I think, a center for it. And I think globally now that's becoming a bigger conversation as well. And a well-hydrated person is a better mood, is in a better space, is better metabolism, better skin, better hair. Everything starts from there.
Yes.
So I think it's that's our core belief as well. So it all starts with water. So that's how I would completely believe in hydration.
That's a fantastic highlight of it, Varun. I feel like all the points that you spoke about, right? The fact that when we drink water, if we combine it with, you mentioned salt, right? The others like potassium and magnesium and everything. Okay. In fact, 70 to 80% of the population is always deficit in magnesium.
Yeah.
So any way of compensating that throughout the day is actually a bonus for us, right?
Yeah.
But if it's a salt, it could be any colored salt, right? The main aspect being, sodium. When we combine that with water and we have it on a daily basis, the retention factor of that water actually working in the body to actually hydrate the cells is much more impactful than consuming plain water.
Yeah. Actually, there's a very interesting, like one of the biggest problems of today's day and age is the fact that even when we consume water, we consume reservoir water, which is rainwater, correct? So Mumbai gets its water from the reservoirs. Now, if you look at nature, civilizations were always built around either rivers or were built around water bodies, which were natural water bodies. Now, the people don't understand or realize, and this is something which even it takes a long time to make the connection. So, when you are standing on the bank of a river, you see the pebbles.
Yeah.
The pebbles are very finely shaped. What are pebbles made of? Pebbles are made out of calcium, magnesium, iron, various kind of minerals, and they've been shaped by water, which is flowing. And every time
Yes.
the water shapes them, those elements get loose from the rocks and get mixed in the water. And that's how mineral water is made, correct?
Yes.
But when you actually take out the mineral through osmosis or through stagnant water consumption, the amount of you may be consuming water, but the amount of that's why magnesium deficiency, iron deficiency, they all become a real thing then, because our body is designed to get its natural elements or natural electrolytes and minerals from moving water.
Yes.
But that's long gone now. So I mean, you have added minerals, but how many added mineral bottles do you have in a day? Probably zero.
Yes. Yes. You've
So
explained it
that's
in the
why.
most effective way possible, by the way. You've really,
Sorry.
really explained it in the most easiest way possible.
Yeah, I mean it's really easy. So we lost that flowing water. I mean, in Iceland, it's one of the happiest countries in the world, even though they have like 7 months or 8 months of darkness. Every river is potent. You can go and you can potable water. You can go and you can drink water from there, and they drink flowing water. I think that's a huge reason why people are not stressed. You have your magnesium in your body, your minerals and electrolytes are all in balance. I mean, it's flowing water is great water. If we can't have flowing water because of the reasons that we live in, at least fortify your water.
Yeah.
At least have the right water. And that's why I think products like ours, like Fast&Up, was also like our magnesium. And I think, I was shocked at reading, I mean, a good way. When I was looking at our data, magnesium has a 99% repeat rate, our product. And when we got into the details of it, it's adding magnesium and calcium and sodium and zinc to water, but it's giving a better quality of sleep, a better quality of mood, or whatever. So what we've actually done, in effect, is made water magnesium rich, and that's what you usually should have gotten in every glass of water you went out and pulled in. But now you have to get it in this way. And I think that's the reason why. That's where when people want to be happy, that intent comes back. I want to feel good. I want to be hydrated. I want to have a great state of mind. I want to have more core sleep, more REM sleep, more deep sleep. I want to have a great skin. I think that is when again nutrition comes into the picture, because yes, we live in urban cities, we live in big cities where getting real nutrition is becoming more and more challenging from our water or from our food.
On that note, it's really nice that you mentioned the fact that we're living in circumstances or environments now where the real nutrition problem is that, are we really getting the benefits of what we are eating, or how much are we getting out of it, right? The biggest debate among so many nutritional platforms and so many talks and so many, interesting research papers is protein, you know.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
it could be plant protein, it could be animal protein, but, everyone has a certain take on it and everybody wants to kind of, explore more on it or wants to have more information about it. Please tell us your take on protein and, also the aspect that Fasten Up plant-based protein was one of the first ones which was actually tasty also and was
Yeah.
very effective for a lot of people who have tried it.
Yeah. So I think you sort of again got the right one on board. After water, what is balanced 30% of the body is muscle. I mean, there is fat, but muscle weighs more than protein. So obviously, after water, the next big thing is muscle, and muscle is protein, and protein is muscle. Eventually, that is what it is. We are held on together by our skeleton, but we are beings because of our muscles, and our skin, and and I think apart from urbanic settings, one of the biggest problems I see with the world today, especially in a country like India, let me be very specific with India. So, like, if you look at our breakfast or lunch or dinner, we are very carb rich. So we've got all the fuel inside. So poha le lo, dosa le lo, idli le lo, paratha le lo. But paratha bhi aloo ka chahiye, right? All of that is just carbs into carbs multiplied by carbs divided by carbs. The protein level remains very limited in those meals. And I'm a vegan. Most of India is vegetarian, at least for majority of the week.
Yeah.
Now, when you are vegetarian, it is obvious to fill yourself up with a lot of carbs, and then protein becomes a small katori on the side.
True.
And I think somewhere when we are expecting so much from our body that we want to look a certain way, feel a certain way, live longer than, as long as possible, live healthy, live well, we also need to give it nourishment which can help and aid that. So you need to nourish that 30% of the body as well. And hence I feel that protein supplementation, it can have a positive or a negative connotation, but every nutritional platform will talk about protein in a manner that bhai khana zaruri hai. Because you can have it as a dal or you can have it as whatever, but protein is very important. Now, when we are talking about our dietary habits and the lifestyle habits, what we've also seen is that the intake of protein, like the intake of water, is a deficit in everyone. So supplementation is required. And that is where typically your additional proteins come in, and it could come in form of high protein snacks, high protein meals, or high protein shakes, because there's a little bit more convenient format of getting a more numerical protein. Because what problem happens is that at times when people are going out for a more, they are looking out for a certain body goal, they need to measure what they're eating, or they need to know what they're having. And one katori of dal may have something or may not have something. It also has fibers or whatever. So getting a measured protein space comes typically from something which has been designed for protein. So it's calculated that itna protein aapko milega ye khaoge. It could be a block of tofu, or it could be a bowl of dal, which is measured, or easier ways are to get protein snacks or protein shakes. Now, within the protein universe, as a brand, while we do have some whey options, our priority and our belief is that the long-term consumer or long-term benefits of plant protein will outweigh the long-term utilization and benefits of animal-based protein. And apart from the fact that, of course, it's being a more sustainable choice and the world needs to move towards more sustainability, it is also in line with a lot more, the gut of humans is getting more and more sensitive.
Yes.
So your cortisol levels go up, the gut gets more sensitive. You change your diets frequently, your gut gets more sensitive. Stress goes up, your gut gets sensitive. Age goes up, your gut gets sensitive. So you need a lighter protein for the body, which typically comes from sources your body is designed to process. And if you look at how an animal-based protein is done in multiple steps. A plant-based protein is 1 or 2 steps away from just grain. So we also believe that keeping in mind the future of the gut, plant-based proteins will always be something which will move forward. And of course, we've got a whole range of plant-based proteins for different goals. But one thing we've made sure is that we really put in a lot of innovation in it. And we've now recently we launched a new version of it, and we partnered with an large American supplier of protein, the largest and the best plant protein in the world. Like the fineness, the quality, the performance, the impact is the best. And it's probably the most premium end in the world. And the reason was that if you're going back to what we spoke about, the product needs to perform. So if I'm taking a protein which is light on my stomach and is giving me the gains or giving me the recovery or giving me my protein goals, it should do all of that. And
Yes.
that's how typically I think a lot of proteins have that issue where they don't give that. And that's where we believe that, quality comes in, quality of life and quality of product. So good quality of life needs good quality of product as well. And hence it's so important to have good quality of product. And hence we have a lot of focus care. Banana hai to badhiya banana hai. Nahi to
Yes.
we'll be out of it. That's how we typically work. So this is our take on protein.
Yes. No, that's fantastic. In fact, when Fast and Up plant protein was launched, and I have very clear memory of this because I used to consume it at that time as well, right? And I do remember that out of all the competitors that were there, it was actually one of the tastiest ones, because
Yeah.
so many consumers have a complaint that because it is derived from pea protein or brown rice or chia seeds or whatever the plant source is, right? The taste factor is not as good as what their counterpart of animal protein would be like.
Yes.
So I think one of the things, because you mentioned innovation as well, I think I'm very sure it was something that was very calculated in the beginning, that when we put out a product that someone is going to ideally consume at least once in a day or probably 4 to 5 times a week, it has to have that taste factor as well, because then the inclination to come back to the product or also consume it, because
Big
human
time.
beings are taste driven.
Yeah. Taste, I think, is one of the most important things. And I'll tell you what I've also, so what we did was, that's the reason we kept on innovating, because we felt that, okay, the point you said that it didn't taste like the animal protein counterparts, because that's what we've grown up with.
Yes.
I may be a vegan now, but I'm a Punjabi. So literally milk was the staple. Matlab, bhook lagi hai to doodh piyo types, right? Literally we were cows in our house.
Yes.
And हम लोग बच रहे थे. I always joke about it. And if you want more consumers to take benefit of this product, because it's a great product, you need to ensure that it comes in a format that they're familiar with,
Yeah.
or it comes in a taste which they can align with. And that's the
Yes.
reason we kept on innovating on this plant protein. And we said, yeah, theek hai, the texture is a bit different to plant-based, animal-based proteins. The creaminess is slightly different. How do we make this better? So that's how we consistently worked on it. So we said, yeah, if animal protein tastes so level, 5 out of 10, this should be
Yeah.
8 out of 10. If it's 7 out of 10, this should be 9 out of 10 in the same spectrum, not in a different spectrum. So I think that's where we really put in a lot of effort. And now the new version also that has come out, I would say, is as creamy or creamier,
Yeah.
um, as tasty or tastier, or light, and definitely lighter than
Yes.
your other conventional proteins. And
I
and
mean,
and think that innovation for us will always continue. We will
yes.
always innovate.
Yes. I'm looking forward to try the new one as well. You know,
And that will make sure that you try it out. The cookies and cream is like bonissimo.
Lovely.
It's very nice.
So why don't tell me, I speak to a lot of entrepreneurs and brand owners on a daily basis. Um, one of the most important questions that I wanted to ask you, was that women are very obsessed with taking care of themselves, looking after their internal health and external aesthetic health as well, right? And over a period of time, we've kind of realized that men don't really pay so much attention on their healthcare routines or their skincare routines, or what is it that the internal health perspective is like, because the focus always has been is that as women, you are supposed to look a certain way, you are supposed to feel a certain way, you should have certain energy levels, also with the whole reproductive cycle and hormonal health going on, right? So there's always this stress on women to be able to kind of have that aspect to take care of health continuously, right? But for men, even in my own household, or even universally, that I have seen, is the conversation around men's health, the conversation around men's mental health, inner health, the kind of supplementation they take, the kind of food that they should be intaking, the amount of stress that they have, or even hygiene products for a matter, is so less. Those conversations are not happening as much as they should. But I feel like with growing time, with growing age, um, even if it's not happened before, that need is there now. It's very important for men to actually understand how important not just their work life is, but on a personal life, how much their health is playing an impact in the family role, in their work role, which they could be leading teams as well, right? So you're one of the same candidates, who's leading a very big team, who has a hectic work life balance. please tell me and please elaborate on your thoughts about, men's health and men's healthcare.
So I think one thing you really caught on with really well was expectation. I think there was always an expectation for women to be a certain way. And that is the reason there was a lot of consciousness which came in for them, because they were expected to be a certain way. And that was from like the past century, I would say.
Yeah.
And I think men, unfortunately, stayed in the space of entitlement, and they would be okay with whatever was they expected everyone to be okay with the way they were. And I think that has really transitioned and changed now. I think expectations are now from everyone. And
Yes.
I think men are also realizing that. And I think as a millennial myself, I think it's my duty to take care of myself, for myself, for my family, for my peers, for everyone around me. And that starts not just from outside. So typically I've always seen the journey of self-care starts from outside in. And if you saw about 5 years ago or 8 years ago, men started taking care of, like earlier I remember. So I'm a very I've been getting my nails done for 10 years now.
Oh,
Okay. So I'm
that's good.
very particular. So I'm very particular about my nails, about my skin, and I have a moisturizing routine for a decade. And and I think at that time I remember people were like, yaar, ye sab kaun karta hai? And that has changed, right? Now there are specific things for men, for their face, for their skin, for intimate areas, for their hair, for their name it, and there's stuff available. And I think that evolution happened much faster than the evolution of personal care in women, because the generation, the millennials and the Gen Z, sort of, they started coming into the consumption pattern. And when they came in heaps and drones. We came in like a volume, right?
Yeah.
um, I think now that transition has happened towards inner health as well. I think men are getting more and more conscious that there is an expectation for them to have happier lives. There's an expectation for them to be, and they have an expectation from themselves as well, that I want to lead a happy life, and I'm not afraid to admit that I may have these issues. And I need to
Yes.
go out and get them solved so that I'm actually able to deliver on what I'm expected out of. And I think that journey has been a really interesting journey, a very quick journey, I would say, a very rapid journey. And and I think from here on, men's health is only going to go up, not go down, no pun intended. And it's a big space, because men process things very differently to women.
True.
I'm not just talking about, I think eventually nutrition is processed similarly, but the way we process situations and scenarios, I think women are far ahead in managing different crises, different problems, and different situations that are being put on the table at the same time. And men sort of process it very differently. We really need to catch up on that. And I think our cortisol levels, our stress levels, and also when you generally have a different body mass index, I think we're now getting to know the fact that we really need to take care of that part as well. And
Yes.
I think this is why I feel that men's health is at the, I would say it's at the beginning of growth. It hasn't seen its entire growth. And I don't want to limit men's health. In some way or the other, men's health has become sort of synonymous to sexual health, which I
Yes.
really I think that is a thing that we need to break. And as a brand, we've been working on that. Our tagline is, while we have products for sexual health, we do have products for stress, we have products for mental health, we have products for physical health, we have products for vitamins, and we are constantly building. We're launching some interesting products in the space of fertility. um, you know our idea is that we need to provide intelligent solutions to men, and not
Yes.
just for one part of their life. It has to be for their entire life, their entire, manage the XY chromosome together.
Yes.
So I think we are at the cusp of it, and I feel this is just gonna, it'll be faster than you could. I always compare it to the 3G 4G transition. Like, no one adopted 3G, but everyone was on 4G. Like in India, that happened. I think men's health is gonna be similar. That's how we see it as.
Also the stigma, right? So there is this
Yes.
stigma where all there are so many clients that first come up to me, and as soon as we speak about their deficiencies, or we've spoken about some kind of a health disorder, and we've told them that there is a certain amount of supplementation which will be needed to be able to bring up the deficiency levels, right? To be able to solve that problem along with food, there will have to be some kind of supplementation, or there will have to be some kind of medicine, or whatever it is. But there is this stigma with, I don't know why, and I would really like to discuss that with you. I don't know why a man's manlyhood is so associated with, मैं pills नहीं लेता हूँ, मैं medicines नहीं लेता हूँ, मैं supplementation नहीं लेता हूँ, वो सब हम लोग नहीं करते, you know. And I'm like, this is such a ancient thought now. We can't have such stigmas with looking after ourselves, because it's not about a pill, or it's not about a effervescent tablet, or it's not about the form in which you are taking it. It is what it is doing to your body, how much benefit it is going to give you, right? So have you actually come across these stigmas from maybe friends or family or?
So I think the stigma around men's health I think it's going to be a process. It's not going to be something which is overnight, but it'll be a fast process. As I said, in terms of adoption of men's health as a category, will also be quite fast. Um, I feel that, as I was telling earlier, that uh, I see it as a journey. Like when it comes to women's health, there has been a lot more open conversation about it,
Yes.
and there has been a lot more there has been a, I mean, for some, it's a part of our television, it's a part of our lives, it's a part of our billboards, it's a part of our advertisement. It's very common, it's very normalized. But when it comes to men's health, it suddenly becomes a taboo. And I think somewhere or the other that goes to an innate nature of how men were designed originally, and how that is sort of changing from here on. I was just giving an example that even contraception was a question mark for men to ask. And
Yes.
they used to be, they wanted to all be discreet. And I remember ads coming on television about promoting people to go out and talk about it and ask about it. And if you look at it the way in the last maybe 5 years or 8 years or 10 years, how the contraception acceptance is also increased, and there's no question about asking anymore. I think men's health will also similarly go into that journey, where currently when people want discreet shipping, eventually it will not be a thing, because it's just as normalized as it is. And it could take maybe a few years. It could take a lot of more. I think it will take a lot more awareness to be done by companies like ours
Yes.
to normalize it. And that's the whole point. I think what we all need to work towards is normalizing this. And I think there is a lot of forums also which are trying to normalize it, like men's health, normalizing men's problem. I think once we start making this as something that we don't need to hide from, and
Yeah.
something which doesn't define us,
Yes.
I think that is when things will change. And I think it is going to be faster than the transition that women had to go through, or the changes that women have. I say that the whole transition of acceptance for women was maybe 100 years. I think for men it will be maybe 10 to 20 years, just because of the generation and the era we are born in right now.
Yes, you have an entire range of products which are dedicated to men's healthcare, right? And as a category, from a more business entrepreneurial perspective, as a category, how have you seen the growth of it in the last few years as compared to any other category, just particularly men's health category? It could be any of the supplements that are doing really, really well. So what has been like the growth scale of that?
I think it's been a very, so we launched actually men's health in a full-fledged format only in 2022. Actually, it was not there before, and in 1 year that became a focused area for us. And that's how incredible the journey has been with the category. And while we do have certain products which actually caught on trend, uh, which were basically for sexual health, but some of our top sellers include products like ashwagandha, which are for mental health, for calm, for peace.
Yes.
Or include our plant protein for men, which is more to do with proteins designed for men for their composition. I think it's, as I said, it's beyond sexual wellness. But sexual wellness is a large part of the conversation, but it is beyond that. And that is the journey that we have to build, that we have to take that entire spectrum of health and find solutions for consumers. And I think that's how it will grow. And for us, we've seen a phenomenal growth. And I think, and we see that growth continuous. It's been and we've seen it being faster than a lot of the other categories we had launched in the past, including women's health or some other problem solution areas. But in this case, it's been a very interesting journey, and the acceptance has been very, very good. And what I've also seen is an interesting insight is it's a very high repeat consumer. So because the product works,
Yes.
they tend to be a lot of loyal. They're very loyal to the brand and loyal to the product. So their consumption is very meticulous.
Yeah.
It's and I've been noticing it something about myself. So I use one moisturizer and I've been using it for the last 10 years. You can give me the fanciest moisturizer on earth, but I
Yeah.
still go for one.
Yes.
And I think that's a very common thing about men. So, for example, I don't know if you've seen this. Like men in your family will have one barber they get their haircut from. Like the world can change, and like you can have the best hairdresser sitting next to you, but they will still go to the same guy because he knows my hair well. And I
Yes.
think that's what defines men, right? So once they accept it and it works for them, they don't try different things, and that's a good thing. So if you give a product which works, I think that'll be a good acceptance coming in, and that's how we see it as a category.
Fantastic, Varun. Thank you for showing us, that little bit of an insight, because, it's really nice for it to come from men rather than women always trying to highlight it. If there is the same sex is talking about the highlights of importance of, how important it is to actually look into that aspect, it kind of really does shift the dimension for so many other men listening to this as well.
Yeah.
And on that note, Varun, I want to ask you, as an entrepreneur, as somebody who's been hustling it out for a while now, right? And doing such great, you mentioned like the brand has the right name, because it's like it's really just really fast with all the things that you've been doing, with all the new products coming in, the growth factor and all those things have been so fast also. It's kind of very resonating with the brand name. I'm sure there have been moments where, there have been challenges. I'm sure there have been moments where, you have kind of, probably had to kind of, doubt something, right? There has been self-doubt as well. But what is that one message that you would like to, which you've learned in your journey so far, but, something that you would want to share with people who are equally passionate, who are entrepreneurs in their own way, or, something that they can learn from your journey?
So I there are two things that I learned, that even if you have self-doubt, never doubt your business. And the thing that I sort of it's written on my board as well for like the past 6 years, 7 years. It's a very simple line, and I believe in it. Where there's a will, there's a way.
Yes.
There is always going to be a challenge. And in the last 3 to 4 years, as a planet or as a globe, we've seen so many challenges, from a pandemic to global crisis of inflation to global crisis of war to uh, climate change. And I think those challenges will never stop, because as the world gets more populated and more dynamic, and there is so much of shift in the way things are working. We are now on the moon, and India was a country which was never on the landscape of space missions, and now we're suddenly the fourth country to be on the moon and the first one on the southern part of the moon. I think these changes will only continuously come up, so you should never doubt what you're doing.
Yeah.
And self-doubt will come and it'll go, because if you're doing something right, it will always show up in the actions,
Yes.
in the results. But what I always would say is, if there is a will to do something, don't give up.
Yes.
There is always going to be, just find the way. I'll tell you a little fun fact about what drives me. And I think that is the last point I would give to anyone. When I started the organization, I remember meeting a certain person from an American company, and they told me that India can never build nutrition brands. A malnourished country can never build nutrition brands. And it was his personal opinion. And at that time, I thought in my head that I would like to bring India into the landscape of nutrition as an exporter and as a brand. And I think today, when we look back, the journey has been tough. But today, the brand is available in about 30 odd countries. It's Reload, our electrolyte, which you have here, is in the top 10 electrolytes in the UK. And not many people know that, but it is. And we are manufacturing for a lot of companies in the world, because we manufacture all our products ourselves. And I think if you ever want to, when you have the will, cannot be a very small will.
Yeah.
If you want to move mountains, the will has to be really big. And the passion cannot be about, I want to be this, I want to reach this level, it has to be beyond yourself.
Yes.
It has to be about something much bigger. And only then can you actually move mountains, because you need to first define a mountain to move. And I think that's what keeps me going. I want to make India one of the strongest players in nutrition in the world.
Yes.
And that keeps me going, and that will continuously keep me going. And other thing I want to do is keep India healthy and active, make India active. And that's how we have Fast&Up. So a lot of these things are a little bit more beyond myself, and I would like to make sure that this continues always. So I think that's how I would tell entrepreneurs: the will has to be strong, and there's always going to be a way.
That has been a beautiful message. I absolutely resonated with everything that you said. I also feel like, the last bit that you said is so important for dynamic entrepreneurs to talk about and accept that if you are in the journey of doing something big, every single element that comes inside is going to be big, you know. And then to get
Yeah.
scared, or then to kind of like take two steps back when that mountain comes in front of you, is just not worth it. So you rather actually try and cross it in whatever way you can, because that is what you went out for in the first place.
Yes.
you know so thank you, Varun, for elaborating that, highlighting that. This entire conversation has been so nice. I'm very happy to be doing this with you. I want to leave on a lighter note. I want to do a quick rapid fire with you. Okay, just a personal one, 5 questions, just to
Okay.
understand you a little bit on a personal level better. Okay.
For sure.
Okay, fine. So the first question is, if you had to take just one thing with you, right, to use for the rest of your days, if you were stuck somewhere and you could just take one thing, what would it be?
Like a thing or a person?
Thing.
Okay. I was like, I'll take my daughter. My wife will hate it, but I'll definitely take my daughter somewhere. Uh,
Yes.
I I think I will take my sunglasses because I'm hoping that I'm going to be on a beach.
Okay.
I'm a very sea guy.
Yes, a very tropical person. Yes, same here. Okay, fantastic. Okay. Okay, if you had to describe yourself in 3 words, please tell me those 3 words.
Describe my. Okay, I am a gardener. I don't know if that is a thing, but I'm
That
a
is
gardener.
interesting though, yes.
Okay, I am ex I am extremely patient yet impatient. I can be very, very patient, but I can be extremely impatient at the same time. And my God, this, what? It's very difficult to think about these things.
I know, right?
I, yeah. Uh, I'm a vegan. I don't know how to describe further.
Yeah. Okay, fantastic. Those are 3 great ones. Okay, fine.
Yes.
Third one. If you had one superpower, if you could get one superpower, which one would it be?
Ooh, nowadays I really want to like travel into space. It's like a new thing. Like it's not because of Chandrayaan, but I really feel like in the last 5 or 6, couple of like last one year, I've been really dwelling into this whole intergalactic, multi-dimensional world. It's like how the universe is just so big. I would love to travel through space. Like if
Yeah.
I can find out how to cross those millions of light years now, I would love it. Like Doctor Strange has the right powers, according to me.
Yeah. Yes. That's a good one. Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Fantastic. Okay. What's your, you have to tell me one. I know it could be many, but you have to tell me one comfort meal. Tired day or exhausted, come back from traveling, one comfort meal. I know you're Punjabi, so yeah.
It's really sad, but it's I think the most common meal. My most comfortable meal is bhindi ki sabji and moong dal and
Fantastic.
roti.
Same here. You know how
The
interesting it is,
most,
right?
it's so happy. Huh?
It's so interesting that we are exploring so many cuisines these days, right? And we're like globetrotters now, right? But 80% of the Indians that I ask, what is your comfort meal? They will always come back with dal, chawal, bhindi, or aloo ki sabzi.
Exactly.
That is
I'm
like,
telling you, like we were traveling. I was like, यार मुझे सिर्फ घर की भिंडी चाहिए और दाल चाहिए. वो भी दाल मतलब no fancy dal. I literally just want jeera in it. That's it. No, nothing fancy.
yes, I
That's home.
absolutely correct.
That's happy soul food.
Okay, great. And the last question. So tell us
Okay.
one of the anything that you do in your daily care routine, like from a supplementation perspective, which is like a non-negotiable for you, which you would just have to do.
Ooh, there's so many. Okay, so I cannot live without my protein. I definitely have to have it, and I just feel like a whole world of a difference when I have it. And I think one of my most, I think I can't go without my. If I'm working out, I can't go without reload. I just love the like it just sips in the middle, just keeps me like a little bit happy. But I think protein is my plant protein is my baby.
Fantastic. Great. Okay. Thank you, Varun, for this very insightful conversation. Your time is
Thank you so much.